What have we decided? Hebrew or English?
English or Hebrew? English, raise your hand. Hebrew, raise your hand. So English is...
yeah, it's a tie. So the tie was like English.
5% English, 3% Hebrew, and 92% said, what about lunch?
Yossi, thank you for joining us. Many of us have been in situations like this, having a conversation on stage, and at least I myself am kind of a creature of habit. I have my own ways of doing that. It's like starting with like 5 things you don't know about Mr. X or Mrs. Y, Z. The problem with you, there are too many things that can be said, and that's by the way one of the reasons that after this we're honored to present you with a lifetime achievement by the U.S. American Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for accepting that.
I tried to find who was in the nomination committee and how many of them I know. I guess all of them, but I couldn't get the details.
You know everyone. It's a single degree of separation place, and you probably have a 0 degree of separation with others. But for those of you who know maybe less about Yossi, I think you're synonymous with the innovation ecosystem. But actually, I don't know if you guys know, Yossi has been a public servant, right? You've been the director manager of several ministries of the government, mostly in areas of energy. Is that a good way to summarize that?
Energy and natural resources.
Natural resources. Like you founded companies before people even know what it means to found and establish a company like Techem. You've been starting with tech events, and I'm not even sure I would call those events like Kinneret. When was that, 2003?
2003, you know too much.
Yeah, I'll try to erase that after our conversation. But I think to me, one of the, beyond being synonymous with innovation, I think you've always managed to be kind of ahead of the curve on all those different aspects. And what's unique about those different aspects of your career and what you're doing, in the past and today, that all together are kind of what's behind an ecosystem. And the question I wanted to ask
Before that, I have to say something. I used to have a boss. His name was Garty. He was a minister in the government. He was the minister who spoke the least. And he used to say in such situation, the difference between such an event and a funeral, that in funeral there is, in such events, there is one guy which believes everything which is being said. And he also used to say, I did much less than what you are saying, but much more than what you really think. Okay, so now let's go to the question.
I can go ahead with quotes I remember from you, like, after ICQ, I didn't know what ICQ was doing, but it made me tall, blonde, and gorgeous, something like that. But
okay.
Going back to the question, the Israeli ecosystem has become kind of a flagship of such ecosystems, amongst others maybe, but definitely one which is not going unnoticed. And there are many other places which are trying to use the blueprints of what was done in Israel to establish such ecosystems in their places. Can it be done?
Yeah, that's a very good question. All of us who are involved in the high tech are suffering now from what we call the surge in tech safaris. People are coming to this country, governments, individuals, companies, in a stream which we never saw anything like this. I think this is now representing a major part of the tourism. And all of them are coming with the idea that they need to find what is the secret sauce, why we have this phenomena that every kid here is going and do one startup and then the second startup and a third startup, and they want to replicate them. I got an email from the #1 tech city in China. I'm not going to mention names. They want to do an event and to replicate what we are doing here, and this is not some obscure city, this is the kind of one of the world's largest hubs. And I'm always asked what is the risk that there will be a possibility to replicate it. And I always say I don't see this is replicatable, and I will explain why. Because if you will ask people what is the reason the high-tech succeed in Israel, you will get the regular answers will be very high level of technology, high level of academy, government policy, chief scientist or innovation authority, etc., 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 financial services. All of it is true. But when you make beer, you need water and you need grain, but also you need yeast. And if you don't have the yeast, you cannot make beer. Or when you put in your carburetor in your car, you put oxygen and gasoline, you need the spark. And the spark is the thing which makes such a small country, 9 million people, yielding 7,000 startups, almost like the whole number of startups in Europe. I don't know if it's still the case, but it was for many years. And the funds which are coming here are also in the order of magnitudes of the funds which are coming to Europe. And the reason, I think, is not the money, not the financial services, not the government policy, all of them very important, and all of them are critical, and all of them are adding. But the one thing which is, but all of them are replicable to this extent or another. The one thing which is not replicable is the culture. I think the high-tech in Israel 2020 is manifestation of certain culture, which we had already for tens or hundreds or even more years, which at every generation it's being manifested in another way. If you go back 80 years ago, you come to the early 40s or mid-40s, there was the Jews after the Holocaust wanted to come to Palestine. The British didn't allow them. The Yeshuv, what was called the Yeshuv, created the system of Aliyah Bet. Aliyah Bet, for those of you who are not familiar, was run by kids 21 years old, 22 years old, that the head of Aliyah Bet, Shaul Avigur, told one of them, you go to Marseille. And the other one, he told him, you go to La Spezia. And the other one, you go to Constanta, you go to different cities in Europe, and you begin to immigrate Jews. And he wouldn't give them almost any money, tell them you have to raise the money.
Figure it out.
But figure it out. This was a huge startup. The whole state of Israel was one long startup. The Technion, the Hebrew University, all were startup, and all were part of this culture that say you have to excel, you cannot be afraid, you have to try and dare, you have to achieve, you have to be better, you have to be best. And as we always say, the Jewish mother at the first year of school at Kita Aleph used to tell the son, go to school and don't forget, after all we have done for you, asking you to bring one Nobel Prize is really too much. And the kid knew that he has to go and now work to get the Nobel Prize, otherwise his mother will not be happy.
So if we have such what I would guess, a strong ecosystem here, do we still need the relationship with the US and the US companies
Yeah,
in Israel?
sure. Sure, we are very capable, we are very good, we are superheroes, whatever you want, but we are a small group of people. You are defying, it's very bad that you are interviewing me because you are the proof of what I'm going to say now is totally unbiased. But for instance, Israel is not very good in scaling. You know, you get company in Israel, get to 500, second is 700 people, they begin to lose focus. You are employing now, I say 12,500 people, you were offended because now you are already employing 1,350 people, which is the 500, which is the biggest employer. Sami, how many people you had in Keter? 4,000. So I don't know how you guys are doing it. You know, I usually, in my startups, we get to 25 people, we are getting totally lost. Okay? And the Israelis are improvising. They are very good in resolving issues, ad hoc, etc. But let's say that processes and management and funding, etc., until 5, 6, 7 years ago, we were not great. And here, the wonderful symbiosis between Israel and the United States worked miracles. American companies came to Israel since the early 50s. I think among the first one there was Motorola and a number of other. In the 70s, the electronic manufacturers began to come to Israel, like AEL and other companies, and they brought the discipline, they brought the management system, they brought the financial system, and they really taught the Israelis how to do business in a larger scale. And then we got here the consolidators, companies like Cisco, which bought, I don't know, 15 companies, or IBM, which bought also maybe 15 companies, and HP, and Broadcom, and you guys bought the last number I saw, which was like 3 years ago, you invested in 65 startups, so maybe now the number is 250. How many startups?
Total acquisitions we had was about 19 acquisitions here locally.
19 acquisitions, but also investments you have close to 100.
Close to that, yes.
You guys should relax, you know, you should take Ritalin and relax a little bit and leave some other people a chance to do something. So you look today on the list of American companies which are active in Israel, it's an unbelievable list. Every major serious company, will it be Facebook or Google or Intel or IBM or America Online, everybody is here. If Intuit, where is Ronit? If you are not in Israel, you don't count. And the parade continues, you know, it's like the corona, what Danny Katariva says, it's approaching kind of psychosis. If you're not in Israel, you're not...
Contagious.
Yeah, you are not good enough. So the relations were always good. And also, when you talk about the contribution of the United States to the building of the high-tech industry, we shouldn't forget that the Technion and Weizmann and Hebrew U were largely funded by American people which cared about this place. You know, we think that we can do everything on our own. This is not the case. I had the privilege to meet Bob Noyce once in my lifetime, and Bob Noyce was the
founder of Intel.
The founder and the CEO of Intel at the time when I served in the United States on behalf of the government of Israel. My role was to bring investments. He and his two friends and the whole echelon of Intel were interested in what's going on in this country, not necessarily for the financial reasons. You know, Dan Tulkovsky came to them in 1974, 73 and convinced them to do a design center in Haifa. And then Dov Fruman, which deserved a whole panel on his own, convinced them to come to Jerusalem and establish a foundry in the place of nowhere. There was no infrastructure here. You know, this was some kind of madness. I think maybe one of the most important component of the success of the Israeli high-tech is some kind of madness and some kind of desire to excel, and also desire to enable people excel. Sami, you must excuse me. You know, this ceremony is about me, not about you. But you are doing much more important things than me. Every time I go to Israel and I find a scientist, I saw a scientist doing 3D printer of heart. He took some cells, and I don't know what he has done them, and he 3D printed them, and they began to pulse. They began to pulse, so I immediately go to the internet to see who is this guy, and of course I see some at the bottom, Sami Segol Center in Hebrew. How many in Tel Aviv? How many centers you have now? Show me in the... How much? 1-4. You are totally nuts. So he created 14 excellent centers in different places, Weizmann Institute, Hebrew, etc., etc. What drive him? What drive him? It's not that he's going to make money there. He's going and spending all his money there. This is the desire not only to succeed, but to see other people succeeding. And this is a very important and a very unique property. You know, the Chinese always tell me, you know, you guys are very capable, but we also very capable, but you guys are working together. They show me a hand, you know. People collaborate, even people which are competing with each other. You see, the time is over. I spoke and spoke.
Good. I think that's why people came.
Okay, whatever.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, thank you. Thank you very much. And you continue to buy the whole country. You remember there was Maxwell, buy me. Now we will have a sign, Intel, buy me. Or Garty, buy me.